Welcome, Age of Vintage Society. It made Honor Blackman a role model for an emerging generation of women and an object of desire for their men. Her characters were both sexy and intelligent, and more than a match for their male co-stars. She was often compared to Marlene Dietrich and Greta Garbo, although one cannot imagine them throwing villains around like her Avengers character Cathy Gale. How was Honor Blackman immune to Bond girl curse? Make sure to watch the video until the end and leave your thoughts in the comments. If you are new here, join our wonderful community by subscribing to the Age of Vintage channel. Many actors might have objected to being associated throughout their careers with a character called Pussy Galore. Blonde, blue-eyed and firm-jawed, she was often cast in roles calling for a no-nonsense woman with a certain flair. Having been knocked out with a tranquilizer gun by a henchman, the first thing Bond, Sean Connery, sees when he regains consciousness is Blackman's face leaning over him. "Who are you?" he asks. "My name is Pussy Galore," she says. "I must be dreaming," he replies. Later, after trying a few judo moves on each other, they fall into a different kind of clinch. Lovely, seductive and absolutely able to take care of herself in a jam, Honor Blackman helped to establish the tough girl persona that would be adopted and honed in later decades by successors like Mila Djokovic and Kate Beckinsale. The London native moved from stage to screen for roles in features like Quartet and A Night to Remember, but would first find genuine fame on television with the droll adventure series The Avengers. As leather-clad tough girl Cathy Gale, Blackman wowed viewers with her femininity and physicality, and that appealing combination led her to be cast in the classic James Bond film Goldfinger as the memorably monikered Pussy Galore. Although many of the female leads in 007 Adventures fell victim to the so-called Bond girl curse, Blackman's career moved along in the wake of Goldfinger, though the majority of her subsequent films proved to be minor and or forgettable. She instead found satisfaction working on the stage in productions like Wait Until Dark, and made periodic appearances on both American and British television. Although Blackman never became a top-tier star, she essayed two iconic characters and proved to be a dependable and desirable performer, expanding her already impressive resume with assignments right up through her mid-80s. With an extraordinary combination of beauty, brains and physical prowess, along with her unique voice and a dedicated work ethic, she achieved an unparalleled iconic status in the world of film and entertainment, and with absolute commitment to her craft and total professionalism in all her endeavours, she contributed to some of the great films and theatre productions of our times. Born in Plaistow, East London, Blackman always called herself a Cockney. Her father, Frederick, a civil service statistician, who believed he was passed over for promotion because of his accent, was determined that his 4 children should have better opportunities. Her father's draconian temper could have extinguished her spirit. There was a kind of Victorian discipline in the household. Her father was plainly a disciplinarian. He had been in the trenches, but I think he almost never talked about it. The beatings were hinted at and talked about briefly, but never ever discussed. Although a private person, Honor once suggested her subservient mother should have left. She said, "I think if my husband had beaten my children like my father beat us on a couple of occasions, well, you would say you would have left him, but in those days one didn't." I suppose that's part of one's upbringing. If you always feel that's not good enough, you turn into Little Miss Perfectionist, she said. The impact on her personality was to develop a sense of nothing ever being good enough. She was hard on herself quite often. She was never absolutely certain, was this good enough? She always wanted it to be better. Plus a tremendous work ethic which was behind her acting well into her later years, taking TV roles in sitcom The Upper Hand in the 90s and later in Coronation Street. She described her elocution teacher as an inspirational woman who introduced her to poetry and the theatre, and who advised her father to enrol her in the Guildhall School of Music and Drama. Yet Honor's father's demanding nature helped her too. For Honor's 15th birthday he offered her the choice between a bicycle and elocution lessons, and she chose the latter. "My teacher was wonderful," Blackman recalled. "She introduced me to poetry and plays and convinced my father that I had some talent. So, after attending North Ealing Primary School and Ealing County Grammar School for Girls, I went to the Guildhall School of Music and Drama, though only one evening a week." Her first acting job was as an understudy in a West End play called The Guinea Pig, and when the lead actress became ill, she was asked to step in. The lessons opened her eyes to acting, leading to her studying part-time during the war, while working as a dispatch rider for the Home Office. Move over, Cathy Gale. "The roar of the motorbike engine used to drown out the sound of the doodlebugs, so we never heard them coming," she said. Further theatre roles followed before she made her film debut in Fame is the Spur, starring Michael Redgrave. Her character dies following a riding accident, a fate she narrowly avoided in real life when, during filming, her horse stepped on her hair as she lay on the ground. In the early 1950s, British cinema was dominated by the Rank organisation, and Blackman joined their company of youth, set up to promote up-and-coming actors and actresses. She married businessman Bill Sankey, but it wasn't a happy union and they divorced. In fact, Honor's father saw it wouldn't work and tried to warn her. On the way to the ceremony, her father said, "It's not too late to change your mind." Later, aged 37, she married actor Maurice Kaufman. The pair struggled to have children and adopted a boy and a girl, Barnaby and Lottie. Dubbed the Charm School by the press, it nurtured the careers of, among others, Diana Dawes, Joan Collins, Christopher Lee and Anthony Steele. Over the next 10 years she appeared in a string of British films, including A Night to Remember, which told the story of the Titanic disaster, and So Long at the Fair with Dirk Bogarde. She moved into television with a role in ITV's The Four Just Men, which was transmitted in 1959. Acting in film, television and theatre for 7 decades, Blackman amassed more than 100 screen credits. In 1946 she starred in her first film, playing the non-speaking role of Emma. After that she went on to star in many films and guest starred in shows such as Invisible Man and African Patrol. She was the original feisty black-clad female agent in The Avengers. She starred alongside Patrick Macnee as judo expert Cathy Gale in the hit TV show for a total of 24 episodes. Cathy Gale, who was first featured at the start of the second series, was an anthropologist who agreed to be John Steed's, Patrick's, crime-fighting partner. Honor was often said to be one of the best female characters on TV at the time and became famous for the role. Blackman's new character, Cathy Gale, became something of an icon for the growing numbers of women who were taking advantage of social changes to assert their rights to equality in British life. Cathy Gale showed that women could have it all. She was intelligent and witty, had her own life and career, and with her skills in unarmed combat was capable of holding her own in a melee. As the series developed, Blackman skillfully used flirting and innuendo to create an unspoken sexual tension between Mrs. Gale and Steed, although they were never intimate. Blackman departed the show for Bond before The Avengers was exported to America, but her performance solving cases opposite Patrick Macnee caught the eye of Bond producer Albert R. Broccoli. She and Macnee also recorded the hit song Kinky Boots together. But just as The Avengers was growing in popularity, Blackman departed it for the third James Bond film, playing Pussy Galore in 1964's Goldfinger. In it she makes an impression from the start, memorably introducing herself to Sean Connery's just-awoken James Bond. The legendary Bond producer cast her on the basis of her appearance in The Avengers, despite the fact the series had not aired in the US. The Brits would love her because they knew her as Mrs. Gale, he said. The Yanks would like her because she was so good. It was a perfect combination. The film watered down Ian Fleming's original character, but nevertheless Blackman's Pussy Galore combined all the best characteristics of Cathy Gale, although she was eventually seduced by the womanising Bond in the final scenes. Blackman thus became, and remained according to most polls, the top Bond girl, helped to a certain extent by the double entendre name. The producers thought about changing the character's name but decided against it. However, the US censors refused to allow Pussy Galore to appear on promotional materials, and she was consequently billed as Miss Galore. During promotion in the US, Blackman, who had already found fame in Britain as the agile black leather-clad Cathy Gale in the television series The Avengers, took delight in embarrassing interviewers by repeatedly mentioning the character's name. Aged 39 when Goldfinger was filmed, Blackman was actually 5 years older than Sean Connery, and at the time the oldest actress ever to play a Bond girl. While Goldfinger made her internationally known, it failed to provide a springboard for her film career. By now she was 40, and producers tended to overlook her undoubted skills in favour of younger actresses. In an interview in 2009, she deplored the lack of good roles for older women. "We have all these older men with their guts hanging out still acting. They can barely put their belts round their stomach, so have to belt up round their crotch. And they all carry on getting roles and are accepted and praised, whereas older women are given rather boring parts or are cut off at their prime. Most of the Bond girls have been bimbos," she once said. "I have never been a bimbo." It was absolutely important to her not to be seen as a bimbo. The images of her are never actually bimboish, they are powerful. Her beauty was very powerful. Blackman's martial arts training helped her win the role of Pussy Galore, an associate of criminal mastermind Ulrich Goldfinger, in the third James Bond film. Her pilot character, who was openly lesbian in Ian Fleming's original novel, becomes Bond's ally after a literal roll in The Hay. In so many of the films, the girls just looked at James and fell flat on their backs, Blackman told the magazine TV Times in 2014. "I was already a James Bond fan, but I asked to read Goldfinger before taking the part," she once revealed. "By the time I had read it, I was convinced it was absolutely me, yet the role was not a particularly glamorous one for the actress. Everyone thinks I went to exotic locations on Goldfinger, but the furthest I got was RAF Northolt, just up the road." She uses judo, a skill carried over from the Avengers, to attack Bond, and their foreplay is physical and combative. After they each flip one another into piles of hay, Bond holds her down to kiss her. Eventually she relents. The honey-voiced Blackman first became a household name in the 1960s spy TV series. Her smart, self-assured demeanour, physical prowess and eye-catching outfits led directly to Pussy Galore, leaving her inextricably linked to 1960s glamour. She appeared in a number of films, including the western Shalako, again with Connery, and the D.H. Lawrence tale The Virgin and the Gypsy, but none of them achieved major success. She did, however, do better in the theatre, particularly in musicals. She was in the 1981 stage revival of The Sound of Music, which starred Petula Clark, and opened to rave reviews. She also appeared in A Little Night Music, On Your Toes and Nonsense. Honor Blackman has had a stunning career, a woman who never wanted her iconic status purely reduced to a black leather catsuit or the throaty purr of Goldfinger's fabulous Bond girl Pussy Galore. She has starred in nearly 90 movies and TV shows, and is known internationally for her excellent performances. Outside of acting, Honor is involved with the organisation Fair Trade, which aims to ensure that third world producers get treated fairly and can make a living from their work. If you liked this video, don't forget to give it a thumbs up, subscribe if you are new here, and if you want to support my work, please visit my Patreon page. Now it is your turn. What do you think about the life and legacy of Honor Blackman?